You know those two simple notes? Done and done.
Oh, yeah. Instantly recognizable.
And immediately, whether you've actually seen the film or not, a primal sort of ancient fear just clicks into place. The vast, unseen ocean suddenly feels a lot more menacing, way more predatory.
It really does.
For 5 decades now, this film has commanded that kind of power over our collective imagination, a power that makes you rethink, your beach vacations. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you?
Absolutely can't help it.
So today we're not just revisiting Jaws as like a classic movie you watch again. We're diving deep into it as a cultural earthquake.
That's a great way to put it, an earthquake.
Yeah, one that didn't just rattle Hollywood, but fundamentally reshaped how we consume films, how studios make them, and even how we view our summers forever.
Right.
It's been 50 years since its premiere, June 20, 1975, and its ripples, they're still felt in every summer blockbuster and maybe every trip to the beach.
It's truly fascinating, to consider Jaws not just as a story, but really as this turning point in cinematic history.
Yeah.
Our mission today really is to unpack its 3 distinct yet sort of interwoven levels of impact for you.
Okay.
First, we'll examine it as just a masterfully executed piece of commercial entertainment whose success, honestly, no one truly predicted on that scale.
Right, not to that extent.
Then we'll explore its surprising and sometimes troubling influence on society and the environment. That's a whole other layer.
The unintended consequences.
Exactly. And finally, we'll delve into its virtually undeniable impact on the American film industry itself, heralding this entirely new era of blockbuster filmmaking that, continues to define cinema today.
It's still living in it.
Pretty much. It's really a journey that reveals how a production just fraught with disaster and delay inadvertently created this timeless, genre-defining phenomenon.
Okay, let's start there then. Let's begin by really appreciating the sheer scale of Jaws' initial success. Try to imagine a movie coming out that doesn't just meet expectations, but absolutely shatters them.
Yeah.
Just redefines what's even possible in the industry. That was Jaws.
It really was.
This film achieved something truly unprecedented in the movie business at the time. It was the very first film to ever cross that mythical golden $100 million mark at the American box office.
The first one.
Yeah.
Ever. Think about that.
It's huge. Before Jaws, films that topped the box office charts were often these grand epics or prestigious dramas like The Godfather or The Sound of Music.
Right, the big Oscar contenders usually.
Exactly. The Godfather, as immense as it was, spent its first week in just 5 theaters. 5. And it built its legacy over time.
The slow burn.
Jaws, though, proved that a summer thriller could not only reach but rapidly surpass those lofty figures. It literally displaced The Godfather as the highest-grossing film up to that point.
Whacked it right off the top spot.
And it did it with this breakneck speed that just stunned everyone. And all of this on a relatively modest, $9 million budget?
Around there, yeah. Which then gathered as much as $470 million in cinemas across the world. It was just staggering.
A financial triumph that literally no one foresaw to that degree.
Not at all.
And what's truly remarkable, maybe even astounding, is its enduring financial relevance. Even 50 years later, that cinematic shark still has sharp teeth when it comes to attracting audiences and dollars.
Incredible, isn't it?
Just for its recent anniversary re-release, August 2025, it collected $8.1 million over a traditional weekend and an estimated $9.8 million through the extended Labor Day holiday.
That's serious money for a 50-year-old film.
And get this. It actually beat out 2 new major studio offerings that same weekend.
Wow, okay.
That's how powerful this film's pull still is. It's a testament to its timeless appeal and its, foundational role in cinematic history.
And that immediate visceral reaction you mentioned, from audiences and critics alike, that's where you truly understood its power. You grasped the cultural phenomenon it was destined to become.
Yeah, you could feel it.
Joseph McBride, the film historian and variety reporter back then, he vividly recounted attending a preview screening in Hollywood.
What did he say?
He observed, when the girl was pulled under by the shark at the beginning of the movie, the whole audience rippled like a wave. They were screaming.
Oh.
He knew then, he said, that it wasn't just a hit, but a guaranteed blockbuster. You could just tell from that reaction.
Spielberg saw it too, right?
Oh, yeah. Steven Spielberg himself witnessed this phenomenon firsthand. He heard customers raving about seeing Jaws 6 times.
6 times.
Turning it to this shared experience, a topic of constant conversation on network news programs. It transcended being just a movie. It became this pervasive cultural event.
Mm-hmm.
Now, initial critical reactions were indeed diverse, which kind of highlights its unique blend of qualities.
Not everyone loved it.
Well, some, like Charles Champlin of the Los Angeles Times, found it coarse-grained and exploitive, arguing it depends on excess for its impact,
Yeah.
basically suggesting it leaned too heavily on cheap thrills.
Okay, I can see that viewpoint.
But many others were utterly captivated. Pauline Kael, with her distinctive wit, famously called it the most cheerfully perverse scare movie ever made.
Ah, that's a great line.
Isn't it? She noted that the disasters don't come on schedule, and your guts never settle down to a timetable, which perfectly captured its relentless suspense.
And Ebert.
Roger Ebert, always a champion of good filmmaking, praised it as a great adventure movie, highlighting its clean-cut adventure without the gratuitous violence.
Interesting contrast.
Gary Arnold of the Washington Post even declared it a new classic of cinematic horror and high adventure, commending Spielberg for streamlining Peter Benchley's novel, making it tighter.
So, a mix, but mostly recognizing something special.
Exactly. Across the board, critics recognized its unique synthesis of horror, adventure, suspense. They often praised its robust characterizations and those compelling performances that really anchored the fear in human drama.
And that fear spilled out into the real world, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Crucially, the film's profound impact extended beyond the screen, right into everyday life. It instills such an acute, pervasive fear of sharks
Yeah.
that American beach attendance visibly plummeted the very same summer it came out. People were genuinely scared to go in the water.
Wow. You could actually see the effect.
You could. And simultaneously, calls to the police regarding shark sightings, often mistaken identifications, dolphins or logs, they rose dramatically across coastal communities.
We're seeing sharks everywhere.
Everywhere. This immediate, palpable societal shift truly underscored its unprecedented arrival and its powerful grip on the public psyche.
Okay, so building on that incredible financial impact and that visceral audience reaction, let's explore perhaps its most transformative legacy. Jaws didn't just make money. It completely flipped Hollywood's calendar on its head.
Totally changed the game. Before Jaws, summer was largely considered the off-season for the film industry.
Right, like the dumping ground.
Exactly. Studios, quite frankly, saved their prestige pictures, their big earners, for the holiday seasons, for Christmas, Thanksgiving. They believed adults were more interested in vacations and being outdoors than sitting in a dark theater during the warmer months.
Makes sense. Pre-air conditioning, maybe?
Well, yeah, and they operated under the assumption that only bored teenagers were free to go to cinemas during their summer breaks. So they typically released what they considered lesser quality films, B-movies, genre fare, into these months.
So the big stuff waited for winter.
Absolutely. It truly shows how deeply ingrained that assumption was. Even prominent critics like Pauline Kael used to take the summers off from reviewing because, honestly, there genuinely wasn't much of note being released. Some theaters would even close entirely or operate on limited hours.
Hard to imagine now.
Right. But Jaws arrived, this force of nature, and absolutely changed everything. Its monumental success practically single-handedly established summer as the best season for the release of projects with the biggest box office potential.
It created the summer blockbuster season.
Pretty much invented it. Now, this shift had been hinted at by earlier summer hits, like Bonnie and Clyde in '67, Easy Rider in '69, American Graffiti in '73.
Okay, so there were signs.
There were signs.
Yeah.
These films demonstrated a growing appeal to younger demographics, especially as air-conditioned theaters became the norm, making summer moviegoing a much more comfortable and attractive escape from the heat.
Air conditioning, the unsung hero.
Huh. Maybe. But Jaws solidified it. It made summer the prime battleground for studios.
And the impact lasted.
Oh, definitely. The long-term impact is quite staggering. By 1996, summer moviegoing accounted for nearly double its 1975 percentage of annual business, showing just how permanent and transformative this change became for the industry. Today, movies released between Memorial Day and Labor Day are responsible for nearly 40% of Hollywood's annual box office revenue.
40% just in those few months.
Yep. It wasn't just a film. It was an economic blueprint that redefined the entire theatrical release calendar.
Wow. And it wasn't just when movies came out, but how, the distribution changed too.
Exactly. And zooming out, Jaws also redefined how movies were released, fundamentally altering distribution models in a way that continues to this day.
Okay.
Prior to Jaws, the standard practice for most hot studio projects involved limited releases. These films would often start in just a few theaters in major cities like LA and New York. They're often just a handful of screens.
Like we said with The Godfather.
Precisely. The Godfather, despite its massive critical and commercial success, spent its first week in only 5 theaters before gradually expanding. This cautious step-by-step approach often granted these initial theaters a significant clearance or monopoly over a large geographical area.
So other nearby theaters couldn't show it.
Right, preventing other cinemas from playing the same film simultaneously. It was a slow burn, building word of mouth and prestige before a wider rollout.
And Jaws just blew that up.
Completely. Jaws, however, took a bold, unprecedented, and frankly risky step. Under Universal's head of distribution, Henry Martin, it opened simultaneously in no less than 409 American theaters.
409. That was huge then.
Massive for the time.
Yeah.
This aggressive move effectively buried the practice of controlled step-by-step releases that studios had favored for decades. They opted instead for a saturation booking strategy. Go wide fast.
Was it the very first wide release, though?
Good question. It's important to acknowledge nuance. The Trial of Billy Jack in 1974 typically had an even wider release, opening in over 1,000 theaters.
Okay.
But that film was critically panned. It bombed with critics. So that led to a perception that wide releases were primarily for bad films trying to make quick money before audiences realized their low quality. Kind of a cash grab strategy.
Yeah, burn off quickly.
Exactly. Jaws decisively proved that a quality film, combined with positive word of mouth, critical buzz, and a strong marketing push, could succeed spectacularly with this saturation strategy. It turned opening weekend into this critical indicator of a film's potential.
And that stuck.
Totally. The legacy of this decision is undeniable.
Right.
This wide release strategy became the industry norm. It directly leads to today's massive releases on thousands of screens, where films like Pearl Harbor opening on over 3,000 screens are now commonplace. It transformed the opening weekend box office into the high-stakes event it is today.
So what does this all mean for the industry then? Beyond the revolutionary release strategy, Jaws essentially wrote the ABCs for how you promote a blockbuster, kicking off a whole new era of marketing that prioritized spectacle and, well, immediate impact.
It really did. The film premiered only after what was described as an expensive, elaborate, and intensive marketing campaign, a level of pre-release saturation previously unheard of.
And the TV ads were key, right?
Oh, absolutely crucial. A truly groundbreaking element of this campaign was Universal Pictures saturating network television during prime time with 30-second trailers for 3 full nights before the film's release.
3 nights straight on primetime?
Yes. Now, this was a monumental departure from previous practice. Before Jaws, studios generally didn't advertise on network TV because it was simply too expensive.
They didn't think it was worth it.
They didn't believe it would yield sufficient returns for film promotion. Columbia Pictures had actually attempted something similar with their film Breakout shortly before Jaws.
Oh, yeah. How'd that go?
They spent a reported $3.5 million on TV spots, but with ultimately disappointing results at the box office. So it seemed like maybe it wasn't worth it.
But Jaws made it work.
Jaws made it work, transforming an expensive gamble into an indispensable tool. Its success with this strategy changed everything. Bob Levin, who was head of marketing at Disney and later MGM, observed that what we now call marketing departments were called publicity departments before Jaws.
Just publicity.
Yeah, because the business was primarily driven by press releases, newspaper features, word of mouth. This shift transformed publicity departments into advertising powerhouses.
And the budgets exploded.
Exploded. Marketing budgets for typical films now routinely equal roughly half of their production budget. It's truly a testament to Jaws' influence that we now expect to see this relentless barrage of trailers for major releases on TV and online.
And it wasn't just advertising, right? There was merchandise, too.
Oh, yeah. And it wasn't just about TV spots. Jaws also launched the merch juggernaut, demonstrating the immense commercial potential beyond just ticket sales.
Jaws mania.
Exactly. The initial wave of Jaws mania merchandise was often pretty grassroots and opportunistic. Think of countless unofficial T-shirts, beach towels.
Right, stuff people just made.
Yeah, even shark jawbones sold by Georgia fishermen along the coast. Or local ice cream stands selling vanilla ice cream.
Vanilla, that's great.
Isn't it? This organic explosion of fandom, however, showed the industry, and notably, a then up-and-coming filmmaker named George Lucas, the incredible untapped potential of merchandising. Lucas shrewdly observed Jaws' success and the passionate audience it generated.
And he applied it to Star Wars.
Famously, leading him to retain the merchandising and sequel rights for his own upcoming film, Star Wars. This decision later generated an astounding $20 billion over 35 years through toys, Action figures, Lego sets, countless other tie-ins.
$20 billion from merch.
Jaws truly laid the groundwork for how films would be sold, both at the box office and, crucially, in the toy aisles and beyond. It established the template for global franchises.
But this success came at a cost, didn't it, artistically speaking?
Well, that certainly raises an important question. What was the cost of this unparalleled commercial success on the art of filmmaking itself?
Right.
Spielberg's monumental triumph with Jaws instigated a shift of power that can be still felt in the American film industry. That's a key point.
A shift of power. How so?
It marked a gradual but profound transition of control away from the hands of filmmakers, the auteurs, directors with a distinctive artistic vision and significant creative control, and back to the studios.
Okay.
This effectively signaled the ending of what's often classified as the new Hollywood era, that period from the mid-'60s to the late '70s.
Yeah, films like The Conversation, Taxi Driver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Characterized by more artistically driven, often darker, ambiguous, morally complex films made by this new generation of directors like Coppola, Scorsese, Hal Ashby.
And Jaws changed that focus.
The industry began to explicitly favor big-budget movies designed for mass appeal and, importantly, easily repeatable success. Sequels, franchises.
The blockbuster model.
The blockbuster model. Film historian Peter Biskin, for example, argued quite critically that Spielberg and Lucas were, perhaps unintentionally, responsible for obliterating years of sophisticated adult movie-going habits.
Wow, obliterating, that's strong.
Strong words. And reducing an entire culture to childishness, leading to what he famously termed the Roman numeral movie. The endless cycle of sequels, prequels, and franchise films we're so familiar with today.
The sequelization of everything.
Pretty much. And a significant contributing factor to this, as Joseph McBride points out, was the necessity of television advertising we just talked about.
Because the ads needed simple concepts.
Exactly. When studios began investing millions in 30-second TV spots, they needed films that could be quickly, simply, and effectively communicated to a mass audience. Films became, in essence, designed so they could be described in a 30-second spot.
High concept.
High concept. This often meant prioritizing clear-cut heroes and villains, easily digestible plots over, say, nuanced character development or complex thematic exploration.
So it potentially impacted creative depth.
Potentially, yes, leading to perhaps less original character-driven films as studios chased these surefire hits with global appeal, which could be easily marketed across cultures. It was a profound reorientation of artistic priorities, shifting from individual artistic expression towards commercial spectacle.
That's a powerful, almost scathing critique, describing a reduction of culture to childishness and a decline in sophisticated storytelling. But from your perspective, was there any positive artistic ripple effect from this blockbuster shift, perhaps in terms of pushing technical boundaries or inspiring new forms of spectacle?
That's a crucial point, and it's not entirely black and white. While Biskin's critique definitely highlights a legitimate concern about artistic depth, the blockbuster era certainly propelled immense technological innovation.
Okay, like special effects.
Absolutely. Think about the advancements in special effects, sound design, cinematography that were really necessitated by these larger-than-life spectacles. Films like Star Wars, which followed Jaws' blueprint, famously pushed the boundaries of visual effects.
Right, ILM.
Leading to the creation of companies like Industrial Light and Magic. These advancements, while often serving spectacle, undeniably expanded the cinematic toolbox for all filmmakers, not just the blockbuster ones.
So the tech got better for everyone.
In many ways, yes. Furthermore, the sheer global reach of blockbusters meant that American cinema, for better or worse, became this dominant cultural force worldwide, introducing diverse audiences to new narratives.
Even if they were simplified sometimes.
Even if those narratives were at times simplified, as the critics argued. So while the artistic trade-offs were real, the technological advancements and the sheer global reach benefits are also undeniable. It's complex.
It's a fascinating, perhaps even cynical outcome of Jaws' success, to think of it ushering in that blockbuster era. But to truly understand how this phenomenon came to be, we need to peel back the curtain and look at the absolute nightmare its creation was.
Oh, yeah.
A nightmare that ultimately forged the director we know today. Let's really unpack this. For a film that became such a phenomenon, its making was, by many accounts, an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, understatement of the year, maybe.
And Steven Spielberg himself, a young director, nearly got fired multiple times.
Multiple times.
So set the scene. A 26-year-old Spielberg, fresh off his previous film, The Sugarland Express.
Which was critically liked, but didn't make much money.
Right. Commercially disappointed. He was keenly interested in directing Jaws. He saw clear thematic parallels with his earlier TV thriller Duel.
Ordinary people versus unreasonable predators.
Both stories about ordinary people battling this unreasonable, relentless predator. Producers Richard D. Zanuck and David Brown took a chance on his relative inexperience, hoping it might bring a certain freshness and energy to the project.
A gamble on the young guy.
But Spielberg made a bold, some might say naive, and ultimately almost ruinous decision.
The ocean.
He insisted on shooting the film entirely outside the studio, specifically in Martha's Vineyard and out in the expansive, unpredictable Atlantic Ocean, driven by this desire for absolute naturalism.
He didn't want it to look fake. No tank shots?
Exactly. He emphatically didn't want the mythological feel of a tank or backlot.
Which sounds great artistically.
Sounds great. But this choice, while artistically driven, led to immense soul-crushing difficulties. Shooting in shallow waters 10 to 12 miles out meant contending with constant, strong ocean swells, unpredictable weather, powerful shifting currents.
Everything you don't want when trying to film.
Making filming almost impossible on many days. Spielberg himself recalled the agonizing frustration of getting only 2 shots on some days.
2 shots. Imagine the pressure.
Crippling pace for any production.
Yeah.
And the overruns were staggering. The expected budget of around $3 million quickly ballooned to no less than $9–12 million, depending on the source.
Tripled or quadrupled.
And the shooting, initially planned for just 55 days, stretched for an agonizing 159 days.
159 days at sea, basically.
Anxiety among the cast and crew was perpetually high, tempers were short. Even the local residents of Martha's Vineyard were reportedly unamused by the disruptive presence of the film crew.
Huh. I heard about this.
Even going so far as to pelt Spielberg's rented cottage with fish guts.
Oh my God, really? Fish guts?
Apparently. Crew members suffered from chronic seasickness, and in one terrifying incident, a speedboat pulling the Orca went too fast, causing the iconic fishing boat to just sink.
The Orca sank.
Sank in a mere 2 minutes. Though thankfully the footage already shot was saved, it was just a baptism by fire unlike almost any other.
What's truly fascinating here, though, is how the film's biggest technical headache inadvertently became one of its greatest artistic strengths.
You mean the shark?
Exactly. The 3 animatronic sharks, collectively nicknamed Bruce after Spielberg's lawyer,
Bruce!
were famously and consistently unreliable. Designed primarily for freshwater tanks, they frequently malfunctioned, decayed rapidly in the corrosive salty sea, and often, quite simply, sank.
They just didn't work in saltwater.
Nope. Richard Dreyfuss, playing Hooper, vividly recalled crew members constantly shouting, "The shark is not working," over the walkie-talkies. It became this mournful mantra of the production.
The shark is not working.
There's even a surprising detail from Jeffrey Voorhees, who played young Alex Kittner.
The first victim, right?
Yeah. He revealed that local children, utterly fascinated, would break into the warehouse at night to roughly play with the faux sea creature.
Kids were playing with Bruce.
Oh, no. Further underscoring how difficult these props were to manage.
So Spielberg's stuck with a broken shark.
Right. Spielberg, initially regretting his naive decision to shoot at sea, had this profound, career-defining realization amidst the chaos. The failing shark was, in his words, a godsend.
A godsend.
It forced him to become more like Alfred Hitchcock than like Ray Harryhausen.
Meaning suggestion over showing the monster?
Precisely. Instead of relying on showing the creature constantly, like a monster movie might, he was compelled to imply its presence, to build suspense through suggestion rather than full reveal.
How do you do that?
He achieved this through subjective camera angles, making the audience see from the shark's perspective, through the iconic yellow barrels that signaled its unseen movement.
Dun dun dun.
And crucially, through the power of John Williams' music, creating this unseen psychological menace far more terrifying than any mechanical beast could have been.
So the problems forced creativity.
Exactly. Spielberg himself later articulated this, saying, "When I didn't have control of my shark, it made me kind of rewrite the whole script without the shark. Therefore, in many people's opinions, the film was more effective than the way the script actually offered up the shark in at least a dozen more scenes that today is history."
Wow. So less shark made it scarier.
Arguably, yes. He now reflects on how modern computer-generated imagery, CG, while offering endless possibilities, can sometimes be a weapon of self-destruction.
How so?
Denying filmmakers the compromise, the limitations that often lead to more ingenious and effective ideas. He points to Jurassic Park, a later masterpiece,
Right.
where 65% of the dinosaurs were Stan Winston's practical effects, working in tandem with Dennis Muren's groundbreaking digital shots. A perfect blend where limitation sparked creativity.
So what did this all mean for the director himself then? This brutal, often demoralizing production wasn't just a challenge, it was a crucible.
Definitely.
It forged Steven Spielberg into the director we know today, solidifying his unique vision and approach to filmmaking.
Absolutely. He openly admitted to feeling immobilizing anxiety, fearing he'd never work in Hollywood again.
That Jaws would be his last movie.
His last studio movie before he was effectively blacklisted. Universal Studios executive Sid Sheinberg, to his credit, repeatedly saved him from being fired, even when most of the exhausted and frustrated crew would have been happy to see the entire production shut down and everyone sent home.
Wow, Sheinberg really backed him.
He did. Spielberg often felt like he was talking people off the ledge, as cast and crew despaired about when they'd ever leave the relentless conditions of Martha's Vineyard.
Just stuck out there.
But despite these immense obstacles, the constant slowdowns, the mounting pressure, Spielberg exercised his artistic vision with this unwavering resolve. He relentlessly pushed to get the performances and shots he needed, demonstrating an early mastery of his craft under extreme duress.
He didn't give up.
He didn't. This stress, this trial by fire, undeniably forged Steven Spielberg and made him a better filmmaker. It instilled in him a great deal of humility that would serve him throughout his legendary career.
And the success changed everything for him.
Oh, completely. The monumental, unprecedented success of Jaws not only proved his talent beyond any doubt to a skeptical industry, but also granted him an incredible, rare artistic freedom. Final cut for the rest of my career.
Final cut. That's huge for a director.
The ultimate creative control over his films. This success also directly allowed Columbia Pictures to greenlight Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
His passion project.
Exactly. A deeply personal science fiction film he had written, but which, as he noted, nobody seemed to want to make before Jaws hit big. It was a career-defining ordeal that transformed a promising yet unproven young director into an undeniable Hollywood titan.
That's an amazing story of resilience. Now, building on that, let's talk about the cast. You mentioned the performances were key.
Absolutely. Building on that narrative of resilience and creative problem-solving, it's fascinating to examine how Spielberg's deliberate casting choices, and even the natural friction among his leads, became absolutely essential to the film's success.
Okay.
Spielberg intentionally chose talented and accomplished actors, but not at all Hollywood superstars. He cast Roy Scheider as the reluctant Chief Brody,
Great choice.
Robert Shaw as the grizzled, enigmatic Quint, and Richard Dreyfuss as the eager, intelligent oceanographer Matt Hooper. His core vision was to ensure the audience felt that such events unfolding on screen could easily happen to them as well.
Relatability.
Exactly. He wasn't after larger-than-life heroes. He sought actors who were at least touchstones to the human race, allowing the audience to identify with them and truly believe, that could be me. He recalled needing people full of vulnerabilities, much like Harrison Ford later in Star Wars or as Indiana Jones, making them relatable everyman.
And there was real tension between Shaw and Dreyfuss.
Oh yeah, legendary. Adding another layer of naturalism, and certainly some memorable tension, were the legendary feuds that played out between Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss.
Happened.
Their real-life, often intense clashes, including Shaw openly baiting Dreyfuss with pointed remarks, were even integrated into the script and performances. It enhanced the naturalistic, sometimes combative chemistry of the trio on screen.
Wow, they used the real-life friction.
They did. Dreyfuss himself described Shaw as bigger than life, a man who intimidated me, who scared me, who exhilarated me, and I liked him and I hated him. Quite a description. Spielberg even shared how scenes were specifically added or improvised based on their behind-the-scenes relationship. Like that famous scene where Dreyfuss's Hooper subconsciously squeezes a styrofoam cup into mush.
Yeah.
In response to Shaw's Quint crushing a beer can with a defiant glare. That came directly from their dynamic.
That's amazing. How did the casting come together?
Interestingly, while Dreyfuss and Lorraine Gary, who played Mrs. Brody, were Spielberg's initial choices, Roy Scheider's casting as Brody came from a chance encounter with Spielberg at a party.
Just bumped into him.
Apparently. Finding Quint proved even more challenging, took 6 months. Both Lee Marvin and Sterling Hayden turned down the iconic role before Robert Shaw finally accepted, bringing his immense stage presence and mercurial personality to the character.
Hard to imagine anyone else as Quint now.
Impossible.
That real-life tension certainly elevated the performances, making their desperate struggle feel all the more authentic. But, okay, we have to talk about the music.
Ah, yes. The score.
You simply cannot talk about Jaws without talking about John Williams's iconic genre-defining score, which is absolutely inextricable from its success.
Absolutely fundamental.
When Williams first played the simple two-note dun-dun theme on the piano for Spielberg,
Yeah.
the director initially admitted he laughed.
Laughed. Really?
Yeah, he confessed to expecting something eerie of another world, something far more complex and symphonic. But after hearing it again and again, feeling its relentless primal pulse, he quickly realized it was the signature for the entire movie.
He got it eventually.
It was simplicity itself, yet profoundly terrifying.
Let's break down this legendary motif, because it is a masterclass in musical terror. It's a primal figuration of two notes, a semitone apart, meaning they're right next to each other on the musical scale, creating that immediate, jarring friction.
E and F, right.
Typically E and F, yeah. Played in the ominous low register by basses, cello, low woodwinds, trombones, etc. It's driven by an insistent throbbing rhythm, an ostinato, that powerful, repeating musical phrase that just drills into your subconscious.
Dun 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 dun.
Williams himself described it as so simple, insistent, and driving that it seems unstoppable, like the attack of the shark. He further noted that it is grinding away at you, just as a shark would do, instinctual, relentless, unstoppable.
Sounds like the shark.
It perfectly represents the uncompromising primal character of the beast. There's even a highly chromatic ascending tuba motif that becomes a sort of bad guy theme, announcing the predator's arrival without ever needing to show it.
But the score is much more than just those two notes.
Oh, absolutely. Much more versatile, much richer. Williams' genius extended far beyond the main theme. He crafted a full emotional landscape.
Like what?
For instance, he composed a sweet piano and celeste vignette for Brody's quiet reflection at the dinner table. But he subtly reminds us of the danger underneath with a low bass pedal. Constant tension.
Ah, clever.
For the eerie, suspenseful night search for Ben Gardner's boat, the score transforms into this mysterioso piece, featuring a haunting solo flute and a delicate web of high strings and woodwind trills, painting a picture of unseen terror.
Chilling.
And for the chaotic, festive July 4th crowds, there's a playful pseudo-baroque promenade that marches along. It was even playfully titled Tourists on the Menu on the soundtrack.
No way.
Brilliant piece of musical irony. Then, when the exhilarating hunt for the shark truly begins, the music shifts dramatically to a jaunty, hornpipe-like melody, Out to Sea, inspired by Quint's Spanish Lady's sea shanty.
The adventure theme.
Exactly. This theme, scored for a full orchestra, becomes heroic and exciting during the shark hunt, a true symphonic masterclass, embodying the men's determination.
And the cage scene.
And then there's the Shark Cage Fugue, a complex fugato-like composition where different melodic lines interweave and build upon each other, like a classical fugue accompanying the building of the shark cage. It symbolizes the intellectual side of the three men in their fight against this pure force of nature.
So much depth in the music.
It's incredible depth. Spielberg's deep trust in Williams, his willingness to grant him such artistic freedom, allowed for this incredible range, forging an exemplary director-composer relationship that truly defined the film's emotional landscape and its lasting impact.
And Williams pushed back sometimes.
Interestingly, yes. Williams initially disagreed with Spielberg's idea of a more intellectual, eerie score for the shark. He instead suggested a more primal, almost pirate movie approach, which of course proved to be exactly what the film needed.
Wow. Okay, that legendary score seamlessly brings us to how deep the film's dramatic elements truly go. You mentioned the characters, and there's one scene in particular.
Ah, yes, the Indianapolis speech.
Exemplified by one of cinema's most riveting monologues, the Indianapolis speech.
Absolutely. This scene is just a bravura piece of filmmaking, a masterclass in tension and character development. Robert Shaw's chilling, captivating performance as Quint, delivered with this almost hypnotic intensity.
Unforgettable.
It's perfectly augmented by Bill Butler's lean but incredibly effective lighting, casting stark shadows that enhance the gravitas. Verna Field's subtle editing, which makes 5 different camera setups feel like one continuous, uninterrupted shot, keeps the focus entirely on Shaw.
You don't even notice the cuts.
And of course, Williams's insidious musical accompaniment, entering and receding at just the right moments. It all combines to create an unforgettable, deeply unsettling moment in cinematic history.
How did that speech even come about? It feels so real.
Well, its evolution was quite complex, a true collaboration. It was initially conceived by uncredited writer Howard Sackler, who first explained the harrowing, real-life incident of the USS Indianapolis sinking and the subsequent shark attacks to Spielberg.
So it was a true story.
A horrifying true story. Then John Milius, known for his bold, verbose style, expanded Sackler's idea into a brilliant but outsized 10-page monologue.
10 pages.
Way too long for the scene. Finally, Robert Shaw himself, who was actually a fine writer, he'd penned critically acclaimed plays like The Man in the Glass Booth.
I didn't know Shaw was a writer.
Yes. He took Milius's lengthy version and, with a writer's instinct, masterfully cut it down to a more potent 5 pages, trimming any excess and sharpening its emotional core. Carl Gottlieb also made significant contributions to the script throughout production, adding comedy and structuring scenes based on cast improvisations, ensuring the dialogue felt authentic to these 3 disparate men.
So Shaw himself edited it down.
He did. And there's a famous, somewhat notorious anecdote about shooting the speech.
The drinking story.
That's the one. Shaw wanted to get deeply into character, asked Spielberg for a few drinks. This led to an unusable first take, with Shaw being literally carried onto the Orca in a state unsuitable for filming.
Oh boy.
But after a panic-stricken phone call to Spielberg that night, regretting it, he returned the next morning, reportedly delivering an Olivier on-stage performance in probably just 4 takes, achieving one of cinema's most powerful moments.
Wow. Talk about pulling it together.
And Richard Dreyfuss's genuine awe at Shaw's performance is visibly etched on his face in the final cut. That reaction needed no acting.
You can totally see it. What about the music in that scene?
Williams' scoring for the scene is incredibly subtle. It enters quietly as Quint's tale becomes truly frightful, augmenting the dread with high-pitched strings and low woodwinds, foreshadowing Quint's eventual fate without ever overpowering the raw power of the dialogue.
It just enhances the mood.
Perfectly. He even wisely dialed out the music entirely during Quint's agonizing death scene later, making it much more chilling and impactful in its stark silence.
So what does this all mean for Spielberg's unique imprint on film then? Jaws became iconic not just for what it explicitly showed, but perhaps even more so for what it didn't. A deliberate artistic choice born of necessity that profoundly defined Spielberg's early style and his mastery of suspense.
Absolutely. Spielberg himself agreed that it was more a men-on-a-mission adventure story than pure horror, but it masterfully deploys horror elements to achieve its terrifying effect.
It definitely feels like horror sometimes.
Well, Paul Leonardo, a horror genre expert, argues convincingly that Jaws is a quintessential horror film, especially fitting Stephen King's terror type.
Terror type?
Yeah, King differentiates between horror, gross out, terror, fear of the unseen, and revulsion, seeing the taboo. Jaws excels at terror, the fear generated by something you don't see but you know it is there, lurking just beneath the surface.
The unseen threat.
Exactly. The vast unseen ocean itself becomes this perfect, chilling metaphor for the unknown, creating that constant psychological terror whenever someone wades into the deceptively serene waters.
And the broken shark helped with that.
Massively. Crucially, the mechanical shark's frequent, often debilitating failures meant it was seen for only about 4 minutes total throughout the entire film.
Only 4 minutes?
Across a runtime of over 2 hours. This inadvertent limitation, as Spielberg put it, became that godsend, amplifying the psychological terror by forcing the audience to imagine the unseen menace, letting their own minds fill in the terrifying blanks. Much scarier.
So how did Spielberg build that suspense without showing the shark?
He effectively used classic suspense techniques, like those shark POVs, allowing the audience to see through the killer's eyes as it stalks its victims, a standard in many horror movies, creating an immediate sense of dread.
You feel like you are the shark sometimes.
Exactly. And his commitment to a naturalistic style with overlapping, authentic dialogue, influenced by directors like Robert Altman, served to profoundly offset the surreality of the shark. It made the human performances incredibly relatable.
Grounded it in reality.
This grounded realism made the audience believe the weight and size of that great white, making the fantastic premise feel terrifyingly real. This deep care for characters, even seemingly minor victims like young Alex Kintner.
Yeah, you feel bad for him.
Precisely. That's why the tension works so powerfully. You genuinely fear for their safety, making the terror all the more acute and personal.
Okay, so we've talked about the filmmaking, the industry impact, but what about the real-world consequences? The shark stuff.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the impact of Jaws goes far beyond the box office and filmmaking techniques. It had profound and tragically unintended consequences for the real world, particularly for sharks.
Okay.
The film's portrayal of a ferocious and mindless man-eater tapped into a primal fear, yes, but it also inadvertently led to this widespread, irrational fear of sharks that had devastating real-world repercussions.
But like what specifically?
This resulted in what conservationists describe as vendetta killings, where individuals actively hunted sharks not for regulated sport or food, but out of a misguided sense of revenge or to protect beaches.
People were just killing sharks because of the movie.
In many cases, yes, or the fear it stoked. There were even great white shark tournaments, specifically aimed at culling their populations, which, alongside increased commercial fishing pressure, tragically. Well, it almost completely wiped out the population of white sharks along the west coast of North America.
That's terrible.
Devastating. Peter Benchley, the author of the original novel, later expressed deep regret about this. He openly lamented the depiction of sharks in his work.
He felt responsible.
He did. He spent the rest of his career tirelessly working to protect sharks, stating unequivocally that he wouldn't have written the novel had he been educated on what sharks were really like at the time.
And Spielberg.
Similarly, in 2022, Steven Spielberg himself, with deep sincerity, expressed profound regret. He stated, "To this day, I regret the decimation of the shark population because of the book and the film. I really, truly regret that."
Wow, that's a heavy burden for a filmmaker.
It is. Conservation groups continue to cite Jaws as a main reason. Their task of convincing people sharks need protection is so incredibly difficult. The fear is just so ingrained.
And the numbers show it.
The statistics are stark and alarming. By 2010, 1/3 of the world's sharks, skates, and rays faced extinction. Globally, over 70% of sharks and rays have been fished out since 1970.
70% since 1970. Wow.
This irrational fear, tragically fueled by media attention to incredibly rare attacks, has severely hindered efforts to protect these crucial apex predators, which are vital to oceanic ecosystems.
Is there any hope for change?
Well, there's a new ethos developing. Filmmakers and conservation groups like Shark Stewards are actively educating the public to not fear sharks, but fear for them, attempting to counteract the lasting negative legacy of Jaws' initial terrifying portrayal and foster a new appreciation for these magnificent creatures.
Shifting the narrative, that's good. That's a truly sobering unintended consequence, highlighting the power of media to shape our perceptions of the natural world. But beyond the direct and sometimes negative impact on shark populations, Jaws' broader cultural footprint is vast, undeniable, and often quite playful too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Its influence permeated various aspects of media, popular culture, public consciousness in so many ways.
Like the poster.
For instance, the iconic poster art by Roger Castell, originally for Peter Benchley's paperback novel, has been widely imitated and parodied in political cartoons and magazine covers for decades.
You see it everywhere.
It's become this universally recognized symbol of lurking danger, whether it's economic downturns or political threats. It's a visual shorthand everyone understands.
And it boosted interest in sharks in general.
Definitely. The film also dramatically influenced media programming and our fascination with sharks. It effectively birthed a cottage industry of shark documentaries, leading to a proliferation of television specials and films exploring these creatures.
And Shark Week.
And, of course, the Discovery Channel's incredibly popular annual Shark Week programming, which has become a cultural institution in itself, eagerly anticipated by millions, owes its very existence to the original 1975 movie and the public's enduring complex fascination with sharks.
It all comes back to Jaws.
In many ways. On a more historical and poignant note, the chilling USS Indianapolis speech, delivered by Quint in the film, led to a resurgence of interest in the real naval battleship's tragic fate,
Which had been forgotten.
an incident that had largely faded from public memory. This renewed attention, spurred by the film, eventually resulted in the posthumous exoneration of Captain Charles B. McVay III, who had been unfairly court-martialed for the sinking.
Wow, the film helped clear his name.
It played a significant role in bringing attention back to the case, and later, it contributed to the momentum that led to the actual discovery of the ship's wreckage by a research team in 2017.
That's incredible. And it even found relevance recently.
Even more recently, yes.
Yeah.
On its 45th anniversary, Jaws found modern relevance as a frequent cultural reference point during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic.
How so?
Numerous commentators compared Amity Island's initial, often hesitant and politically motivated, response to the man-eating shark, keep the beaches open, with American society's own, similarly faltering, response to the invisible viral threat.
The Mayor Vaughn syndrome.
Exactly. It's clear that Jaws has cemented itself not just in cinematic history, but deeply within our collective cultural memory, proving its power to resonate across generations and contexts. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Jaws truly stands as a monumentally important piece of cinema. It's a classic that, through sheer craftsmanship, a brilliant score, iconic performances, and that famously troubled production, unintentionally altered the entire course of Hollywood history.
Changed everything.
It left an indelible mark on our collective memory, for better and for worse, as we've discussed. It's a powerful testament to how creative problem-solving under extreme pressure can lead to unforeseen artistic triumphs, shaping not just how films are made, but how they're sold, how we experience them, and even how we perceive elements of the natural world around us. Its legacy is this complex tapestry of innovation, influence, and enduring cultural impact.
You know, for all its revolutionary impact and its role as the, I guess, accidental architect of the modern blockbuster, Jaws remains, at its heart, a deeply human story. It's about ordinary people facing unimaginable terror.
That's the core of it.
It's this fascinating bridge, an almost ironic one, between the cynicism, the moral complexity, and the director-driven artistry of the new Hollywood era.
Yeah.
And the populist thrills, the mass market appeal, and the franchise-building mentality that would come to define the decades that followed.
A real turning point.
So as we navigate a world today of endless blockbusters and spectacle, where films are often explicitly designed, like you said, to be described in a catchy 30-second spot, making them easier to sell globally, it makes you wonder, can films still deliver those profound aha moments, that universal appeal, and that primal shared experience without sacrificing the depth, the nuanced storytelling, and the rich characterizations that made Jaws so much more than just a creature feature?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the billion-dollar question now.
Right. It's a question worth pondering the next time you hear those two infamous notes. Dun dun. And feel that little shiver down your spine.